talking point, make sure you smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, all that good stuff. Definitely super chat and all that blase. You know, anything helps. But going to the next one, because I wanna really sink my teeth into this one, because before any of this stuff came out from Shingo Inoue, before Shingo Inoue started to talk like a loving father rather than a world-class trainer, you had Bob Arum and Todd DeBuff speak out against a potential Inoue move to featherweight, 126 pounds, which, is very disappointing for me, because pretty much post Luis Neri, all I've cared about with Inoue's career is him going to featherweight. That's why his excluding the Junto fight, because I was excited about it. Every fight apart from Junto, going into it, I wasn't ultra excited like I used to be when Inoue was fighting Donaire and Emmanuel Rodriguez and these kind of guys, because Inoue is a special fighter, and I wanted to see if he could join the list of boxing royalty, like Floyd Mayweather, like Manny Pacquiao, like Oscar De La Hoya, like Sugar Ray Leonard, like Tommy Hearns, of becoming a 5-division champion. And the only way he could do that is if he goes to featherweight, right? So it's disheartening to hear people of influential positions in boxing speak like this, but I'll read it to you guys and I'll dissect, and we'll try to make some sense of this. So here's what Todd DeBuff, the president of Top Rank, said, who really, if you guys know anything about how Top Rank is ran these days, he's really the guy that's pulling the strings. Bob Arum really isn't as involved with the day-to-day operations of Top Rank as much as he used to be. It's really more Todd DeBuff than anything. So it's very important you listen to what he's saying, because that's going to play a factor. Obviously, Top Rank doesn't have the final say, because Inoue has Ohashi and Mr. Honda, who are the lead as far as his promotional his promotional backing is concerned. But they do play a role. They do have a position of influence in his career, even if it's a small one. But here's what Todd DeBuff said, word for word, verbatim. He stated the following, and I quote: "The Inoue-Nakatani fight was a terrific tactical fight, and you could tell both guys had such respect for one another. Inoue wasn't just jumping in like the terminating monster early on, which was a little surprising, but he had to be careful and cautious of Junto Nakatani." Where is it? Okay, hold on. Where is it? Where's the actual quote? Here we go. Okay, I'm sorry. I don't want to read through all that, because who the hell wants to talk about Inoue Nakatani? We talked about that enough already. But here's what they said. Here's what the executives of Top Rank said, and I quote: "Throwing Bam Rodriguez into the equation makes a lot of sense, and I can see him taking on. I can see him first taking on Nakatani. With Inoue's career, you don't know what he wants, right? He's older now, and he's very successful, and he will go down as an all-time great. But I'm not sure that Inoue wants to move up to featherweight and try to chew off someone like Rafael Espinoza, who's even physically bigger than Nakatani. I'm not sure that's a good matchup at this point in his career. I think Inoue has probably hit his maximum weight at 122 pounds. So they're putting a cap on him, right? And those are the words of Todd DeBuff, the president. And then Bob Arum wasn't quite as long-winded. Bob Arum kept it very short, very simple, very direct, and very to the point. He said, and I quote, "I don't think Inoue would do too well if he went to 126 pounds." So Todd DeBuff had more diplomatic words. He kind of was beating around the bush. Bob Arum said, look, if Inoue goes to 126, bad things are going to happen to him. That's pretty much what he said. I don't think Inoue would do too well if he went to 126. So it's definitely disheartening. But I'm not surprised, because like I've told you guys, like I've said it in older lives back when I was in Japan. I said, look, when I seen Inoue in the gym, I said, this guy's small. He's not really cut out for the featherweight division, but he's such a great fighter, and the skill level is so high, the athleticism is so high, that you want to see if he could overcome the physical limitations, like kind of in the same way that Manny Pacquiao did back in the day, and all the great fighters yesteryear. So yeah, I'm not surprised. I've kind of lost faith over the last 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, you could say, of Inoue ever coming to featherweight. That's why, like, for me, I've always been dialed in on the unification fights at featherweight. I do want to see them happen, but I think now it's like now I'm dialing into them even more. I'm thinking about fights like Bruce Carrington versus Rafael Espinoza, Bruce Carrington versus Angelo versus Rafael Espinoza, Brandon Figueroa versus Bruce Carrington, Brandon Figueroa versus Rafael Espinoza. And I'll be honest, I don't think any of those fights happen this calendar year. I don't think you see the featherweights unify this year, but I do think, spring, summer 2027, that's when you're going to see those kind of fights happen. I think looking at the landscape, knowing the intricacies of each fighter's team and situation right now, I think that's what I think. I think sometime between March and June of next year, that's when you're going to start seeing the dominoes fall as far as featherweight unifications. Because let's break it down. Angelo has been fought in 12 months at the time he's shooting this video. If you were to take a unification fight, you're talking about him coming off of 16 to 18 months going into unification fight. That's not necessarily smart, right? So who knows? But, money talks. So if the right offer came on the table, it could happen, even on a 15 or 16-month layoff, right? We'll see. But probably not. Bruce Carrington, he's fighting a voluntary. I don't foresee Bruce Carrington being in a unification fight this year. I think Top Rank want to continue to build his profile for a potential Inoue fight or Rafael Espinoza, right? Maybe because his first fight is a voluntary in Cleveland on the Abdullah Mesa undercard. I think if he beats Palacios, you probably see Bruce Carrington come back to New York City and do a defense in New York City in front of the hometown fans and build him up more. Because remember, New York City is one of the biggest cities in the world. He's from Brooklyn. It's good marketing if he defends the belt in New York City. So I don't think he's going to unify. I think he winds up fighting Palacios and then going to New York City if he's victorious against Palacios. Espinoza is probably going to be a one-and-done fight this year, probably September for one of the Mexican holidays. Not Cinco de Mayo, but Mexican Independence Day. He probably fights on the Canelo undercard against not Angelo or Bruce Carrington or Brandon Figueroa, but I think he probably fights some guy in the top 15, gets another win, and builds his profile a bit more. And then Brandon Figueroa, I interviewed Brandon Figueroa back in February at the Mario Barrios Ryan Garcia card, and he pretty much said, "Look, I want a hometown fight in I think he's from Velasco, Texas, West Texas, which, hey, you got the belt, why not, right?" So that's the landscape of where we're at in the featherweight division. And I think boxing fans, I have bad news. I don't think the featherweights unify this year. My personal opinion. I could be wrong. Things always change in a fight game, but that's my personal opinion looking at each and every fighter in the division. I just think it makes a lot more sense monetarily speaking for everybody if the fights happen between March and June of next year, right? So I'll leave it at that. But it is disappointing that Inoue is not coming to featherweight, and happens. Sometimes things aren't meant to be in the fight game. But we got our first super chat. Shout out to my guy Omega Rock. He says Inoue has been naturally smaller than everyone he's faced at 122. I remember an interview where Paul Butler said Inoue is smaller than him naturally. He's small. I don't think people understand how small Inoue is until you get in front of him. And I've been in this. We never spoke or anything. I mean, I said hi to him one time at Ohashi Gym, but we never spoke. But I've seen him. I've been 5-10 feet in his presence. I've been close enough to him to size him up, and he's not very big. To be honest with you, I'm not even sure if he's bigger than me, and I'm not even that big. I'm not a big guy, right? So it makes it that much more impressive when you see how smaller he is in person, what he's been able to accomplish in boxing, going up in weight, knocking out Stephen Fulton. He's truly a great fighter, right? And I know better than most people what kind of disadvantage he'll be at if he goes to featherweight, and so does Ohashi's team, so do all these guys, and that's why they're talking like this now. But it is frustrating because I would say 12 months ago, 18 months ago, all we heard from Bob Arum, all we heard from Top Rank and Ohashi and Tekken and Honda and all these guys, all we heard was that the monster is building his body up to come to featherweight. That's why he's fighting Ramon Cardenas. That's why he's fighting Merjan. That's why he's boxing this certain style. And now they're not talking like that no more. They're backing out the block. So, it's up for interpretation. If you want to say he's ducking these guys, you can. I'm not going to get on that train because, I really just want to be chilled out this live. But probably do the Bam fight and call it a day. I think that's probably what he's going to do. Fight Bam. They could probably do it like in a mega stadium. I think they were talking about doing it in some sort of Olympic stadium where they have like 80,000 seats. I think that could be an option for them. I think that's what's going to happen, and Turkey Al Sheikh is gonna pour a boatload of money into that. So we'll see how it goes. But anyway, they give it a super chat. Let me get to a couple more comments, and then I want to talk about that Bam Inoue. My man right here says, I've been saying Inoue won't move up as long as Espinoza stays there. To be honest with you, I mean, I know I understand the concerns for why Inoue won't fight Rafael Espinoza because of the size, but I don't think that's a fight he'll lose. I think that's a great fight for him. Espinoza is not durable. Like people keep trying to make Espinoza be this killer. And, Zanford Promotions, who are his lead promoters, keep feeding certain things to certain reporters in the media and making it seem like, guys is ducking Espinoza, which I know is not true. And, they're trying to make it out to be a killer. But I personally think Inoue will beat the dog shit out of Rafael Espinoza. I really believe that. I don't think fighters who fight like Espinoza with this long-ass torso can beat an elite body puncher like Inoue. Now, of course, he has that Mexican volume punching style. We know throughout history the Mexican volume punching style has given the Japanese style a lot of problems. That much is for sure. We've seen it throughout history, right? So I can see why, but there's never been a moment in time where I've said, you know what, I don't like that fight for Naoya Inoue, to be honest with you, because Espinoza is not a counter puncher. Espinoza is a guy who comes forward. To beat Naoya Inoue, I think you have to have at least some elements of counter punching with you and or volume punching. So that's why I feel like you got to give Bruce Carrington a chance, even though I feel like Inoue will beat Bruce Carrington because Bruce Carrington's not experienced enough on that elite level. I would give Bruce a chance against Inoue because Bruce can counterpunch. He's got long arms. He is explosive, right? I would get, obviously, you guys know how I feel about the Angelo Leo fight because he does a lot of things in there creatively from an offensive standpoint. I think Figueroa and Espinoza, while they're both very difficult fights for the monster because of the size and the volume, I think stylistically, with the current landscape, those are his two best chances to become a featherweight champion. His best chance to become a featherweight champion, they pissed it away. They should have went up and fought Nick Ball because he was a smaller guy. He was fighting just as many 122-pounders as Inoue was. I feel like the Ohashi and Mr. Honda and them guys, they really missed a golden opportunity for Inoue to become a fight division champion. Not doing that Nick Ball fight because he was there for the taking, but I digress. New York is a commerce capital. It is.